Yep. Good morning, everyone. So last session we learned about working with arrays in TypeScript. What are the changes in array concept? I told you that because array concept same as like in JavaScript. Few changes are there. So those changes I explained. In JavaScript, there is no possibility of similar type of values, but in TypeScript, we have both. We have similar type as well as various types of. Now, after understanding array, we need to know about another one is object type. How we can define object type. Actually, objects also same JavaScript object only. Just a basic point I will explain. For example, we have some LED, some TV. It is a string and it is some TV. And LED, some watch. It is a string, some watch. And we have LED price. It is a number and some number. Now here, this price that we defined, this belongs to which product? Is it belonging to TV or watch? The price that we defined, does it belongs to TV or watch? It doesn't belong to any of those because there is no relation here. So here, there is no relation between these products and the price. There is no relation at all. The price doesn't belong to either TV or watch. All are independent. So the concept of object is nothing but actually object is used to keep all related data and logic together. Because data and logic is not together. Data and logic is independent. And to keep all related data and logic together, so we need an object. Object is used to keep the related data and logic together. Actually, here object actually LNK introduced concept of object into computer programming in early 1960s. In early 1960s, actually majority of people think that object is a concept of object oriented programming, right? Many times people think object is a part of OOP concept, but object was there before OOP concept was there. Before object oriented programming started, we have objects in computer programming. So object doesn't belong to OOP concept because OOP languages started when object oriented programming started in early 1967. Early 1967 with a language called Simula. Simula 67 is the first object oriented programming language. After that, we have C++, after that Java and .NET languages and all. Simula 67 is the first OOP language, object oriented programming. But before object-oriented programming, we have a concept called object. So object doesn't belong to OOP concepts. Generally, people think object is related to class. We have a class, and for a class, we create an object. Not like that. Without a class, also object can be there. So the main purpose of object is to keep all the related data together. Currently, here data have no relation. Price is independent, watch, TV are independent. Now, how to keep all related data together? It's very simple. We have to define, suppose, TV. And if I want to keep all the TV related logic together, then we need to configure all the data in a block. We have to configure all the data in a block. Now, this block will keep all data and logic at one place. And whatever you defined in this block, that belongs to whom? TV. So it creates a block. In this, how to store? In this block, we have a key and a colon, and we have a value. Under that key, this value is stored. We want multiple keys. Then you have to separate with comma, another key, and a value. This is called object. What is the purpose of object? Is to keep all related data together. Actually, not only data, logic also. Instead of value in a key, you can also put a function. That means keeping all related data together. Data and logic together. And this have a problem in our general JavaScript. In JavaScript, one problem is there. The problem is nothing but this object is not having proper structure, structureless. It is a structureless. Structureless means, for example, see here. Now, in this, to keep all related data together, we need to keep LET, TV, and we need to write an object. But if you are designing an object, what should be the data type? Earlier in JavaScript, there is no data type. So then what is problem? I will show you. See, in JavaScript, problem is LET TV is equal to object. Here key is name. In name, I can store some string. So I am storing some string. So into it, comma, and I have price. In that, I need to store a number. I am storing a string that is valid. It will take. There is no restriction. Then this is not a good object. This is the problem that we were facing with JavaScript. In JavaScript, there is no type restriction for this. So you can store any kind of data. But now in TypeScript, we have a good concept. In TypeScript, what we can do is, when you create an object, you can tell in that object what must be the fields and what must be the type of the field. How you can do that? Just before storing data, after mentioning the object here, you have to put a colon. We have to mention data type. Data type is mentioned like this in a curly brace. That indicates that now the type is an object. There is no keyword for that. Generally, we have for number keyword is number. For string keyword is string. For Boolean keyword is Boolean. So, but for object, there is no keyword. Then how you declare object types in TypeScript? So you have to mention this block by using object. In this, you have to tell what is the data this object have to deal with. That means we have to tell the key name. What is the key name? And what should be the type of it? Type is what? String. Like this we define. After that, comma. Next what? Price. Price must be what type? Number type. Now, once you mention this, now you can see it is showing some error. You can see this TV is showing error. Error is nothing but it says that you mentioned the type must have name and price, and there is no name and price. So you can see it says that TV is expecting name and price and they are missing. Okay, let's write those name here. So what is the first value? Name. We have to define name. In that name, what is the value? String type. So we are writing the string type name. And comma, next one is price. And price is a number type. So I define. Now accidentally, suppose if I try to put some string price, it is invalid. It will not take that value. It says that according to the declaration, price is a number and string is not assignable. This is very, very good. This is a big headache in JavaScript, because in JavaScript, when we create object, they don't have any restriction. Any type of value can store inside. But now we have a good restriction. But for objects, we don't have any keyword as type. Object type is defined by using a block. That means now this price must be number. It must be a number. You cannot have anything. One more important is inside this comma, I'm adding one more option. One more is nothing but actually I'm defining as stock. Stock as I'm writing true. Then it is showing error. That means actually this type is working like a contract. Contract means according to contract, what is defined exactly only that is allowed. Anything extra, anything missing is error. That means you cannot store stock because it is not defined as with the stock. We need to store exactly only the data which is defined. Only the type that we define. Anything extra is not allowed. So this cannot be done. Another important, suppose here, this is okay. Initially, this is the data. How do we access the data? If you want to access anything from an object, we have to access with reference of object name. Object name. So that means here console.log, I want to print name and price. The name is equal to how to access the name. So object name is TV. TV dot property name. In the next line, we have like price. Price is equal to this is TV dot price. That is how we access. So generally, object's intention is to keep all related data and logic together. Now here, what is problem is above syntax will not have any restriction for keys and values. Above syntax will not have any restriction for keys and values. TypeScript can set restriction for keys and values. TypeScript can set restriction for key and value. And here TypeScript object type is defined using this block symbol. TypeScript object type is defined by using the block. So syntactically, how to define? Here we have to define some LET, TV, in that name is string type and price is number type, is equal to, now you can set some value. You can initialize or you can assign. Already we learned assignment and initialization. You can initialize or assign, right? Suppose I am initializing. In the initialization, we need to put name. Name is some name. Then comma, we have price. Price is some price. Any another type of data stored in that reference, it is not allowed. Now here, every property defined for object is mandatory to implement. Every property defined in object is mandatory to implement. It is compulsory to implement. In an object, you mentioned name and price. Compulsory, it should have name and price. Every property defined in object is mandatory to implement. Can we have any property which is not defined? No. So that means it can have only the properties that are defined. So here, let me tell this point here. See, let's see here. Here one interesting concept is there. For example, see now, according to this, I'm adding one more property, stock. Stock is a boolean. Now immediately it is showing error. It is showing error for this TV. It says that stock is missing. Stock is missing. So then we have to mention the stock. Then if you don't mention the stock, it is showing error. One speciality about TypeScript, which is not there in several programming languages, including Java, .NET also. .NET have that, Java don't have this. You can have optional parameters. Nullable parameters. Nullable parameters are not there in several programming languages. Even several high-level languages don't have optional parameter. That means stock is not mandatory to implement. For example, you designing a product details and in that there is a rating. Rating, until or unless anybody purchased it, rating will not be there. Until or unless somebody given rating will not be there. So rating is there, but everybody need not to use it. In that case, if you think any property can be ignored, then what you can do is you can make this property nullable. Nullable means just beside the property name, you have to put a question mark, then it becomes optional. This question mark is a null reference character. I hope you learned in HTML question mark plus asterisk purpose. Question mark means 0 or 1 occurrence. Question mark means 0 or 1 occurrence. That means it can be 0 times or it can be 1 time. So technically this is called null reference character. every property is mandatory. If a object have 10 properties, compulsory 10 properties you have to mention. If any property you want to ignore, then there is a facility. This is not there in several languages. Several high-level languages don't have nullable properties, but we have that in TypeScript. And how to define nullable? So what is the point here? The point is every property defined in object is mandatory. So you can configure nullable property by using question mark. Question mark is called as null reference character. You can do it by using null reference character. Null reference character. Null reference character. So syntax, how? Suppose we have TV. TV is an object with the name, string with the price, number, and with the stock as question mark, and it is Boolean. Now you can ignore that stock. So it's not necessary to implement the stock. You can ignore the stock. So what are mandatory? Name and price. Can there be more than one optional? Can there be more than one optional properties? Yes, you can have. So you can define multiple optional properties. You can define multiple optional properties. It's not necessary that only one should be optional. You can define multiple optional properties. So you need to configure optional properties by using a question mark. So whenever you design object, what you mentioned in object are exactly required. Anything extra not allowed, anything missing not allowed. If you want to miss anything, then you can mention it as what? Optional. So now it's not necessary to mention price, but if I remove that question mark, then it shows again error, says that stock is missing, and I put it as question mark, then it is not required. Remember, if you put question mark, then it is your wish. If you want, you can write. When you are writing, it shows that, it says that this is a nullable. That means it's not necessary, but if you implement, you have to mention with the same type what you have defined. Even you don't define, that's not a problem. You can ignore it. This is one example. Actually, I will copy this example for you. In notes, I will upload this. Okay. So this is one point. How to declare an object and how do we set the properties for object, how we can keep any property as optional. For that, you need to define. Now, very important is if your object comprises of only data. If your object comprises of only data, then it is known as JSON. Then it is called JSON. If your object contains only data, I told you that object means not only data and what? Logic. But if you created an object that contains only data, there is no logic, then it is called JSON. JSON means JavaScript object notation. JavaScript object notation. If anybody asks you like, is every JavaScript object is a JSON? Is every JavaScript object is a JSON? Every JavaScript object is not JSON. only the object that contains data is a JSON. If an object contains functionality, then it is not a JSON. So how to define functionality, I will show you how we can define the functionality. And one more point here, you can access object related properties. You can access object related properties within object by using this keyword. I hope you learned this in your JavaScript. Object related properties are accessed within the object by using which keyword? This. And you can access object properties outside object by using object name. Inside the object you have to use this, outside the object you have to use object name. I will show you that here. So object may contain both data and logic. Currently, if only data is present, then it is called as, only data is present, then it is called as JSON. How to define functionality? I will show you. Object related functionality is defined by using function inside object. Object related functionality is defined by using function inside object. How we can define function inside object? We will see that. How we can configure the function inside object. Object related functionality is defined using a function. See now here, actually this will work normally. I will run this in a command prompt. Just I already told you that I am using command prompt just for your visual sake, because you can try in terminal directly. So here tsc index.ts and this is node index.js, and you can see this is the result. We are able to access the name and price, but actually that example already I given there. I will upload into classroom. Here see now, we are defining LET TV and it is an object. In this object I want some details like name is what type? String. And price is what type? Number. And quantity is also number. And we have total is a function. This total function have to calculate and return quantity into price. Now how to declare a function type? There is no data type for function. Then you have to mention the type as any. There is no data type for function. Then functions are stored in the reference of which type? Any type. Here now let's put the data now. First name is a string. After that price is number. After that quantity is also number. After that total is a function. Then function is written by using colon and a function. And this function can return quantity into price. How to access quantity? You have to access the member of an object inside the object, then you have to use which keyword? This dot quantity into this dot price. This is how we write an object. Now in this object, we have data as well as logic. This is not JSON. Remember, JSON means only data. If any logic is present in a JavaScript object, it is not JSON. So if anybody asks, I told you already, is every JavaScript object can be called as JSON? No. So only the object that contains data is called as JSON. Here there can be data as well as logic. There can be multiple functions. See, I'm adding one more function, print. Print also any type. What this print function have to do is after total, and remember it says that print is missing now. It says that print is missing here. Am I right? Now, can you make a function optional? Can you make a function optional? Yes, any member can be optional. You can have a property as optional. You can have a method as optional. Anything can be optional. If you want print method to be optional, then you can put question mark here. Then it is optional. That means there is no problem. So you can define here, comma, what is the next method? Print. Print is a function. What this function have to do? It should print all details. Then console.log, I am printing the details. What are the details? We have name. How to access the name? Currently we are accessing inside object only. Inside object only means name is equal to this dot name. In the next line, we want price. Price is equal to this dot price. In the next line, we are accessing quantity is equal to this dot quantity. And we want to access total. Total is a function. Then we have to use this dot total. Total is a function. It is called like this. Functions are called with a parenthesis. Now this is an object ready. So that is how we define the objects. Now how to access the print method which can print all details. So outside the object, we have to just access object name. Object name dot, what is the method? Print. It will print the details. Inside the object, the members are accessible by using which keyword? This. Outside by using object name. Object name is TV dot print. And you can see now here I will compile that, and TSC, and it is index.ts and node, and it is printing all details. We have name, we have price, we have quantity and total. So this is an object type. So we will use objects for two purposes in our programming later. In Angular, everywhere you will work with objects on. Because what is the responsibility of an Angular developer? You are Java developer, .NET developer, or PHP, Python, some developer. What is your work in real-time projects? Through Angular? Your backend technologies will give you data. That data you have to present using Angular. And you have to design interactions. Now, data comes, actually data is present in any database like Oracle, MySQL, or MongoDB. That data we don't directly interact. What your server-side technologies will do, they pull the data from a database, they convert the data into JSON and give to our Angular. Our Angular have to collect the data which is in the format of JSON. Earlier, few years back, even today, some companies, you will see data coming in XML form. But now we are not using XML very much. We are mostly using which format? JSON. Data comes in the format of JSON. We have to access and use the data. And very important, actually, in an object, you can have any kind of data. For example, let's see here. Suppose name, price, number, quantity, it is okay. For example, I want here another member called cities. Cities is a string type array. That means you can have any kind of data in an object. It can be array type, it can be string type, it can be Boolean, it can be any type, primitive type or non-primitive. Non-primitive type. That means now cities is a string. Okay, see, interesting part here, what I am doing. Cities is a string, comma. I will use here rating. Rating is again object. This is called embedded object. Embedded object means an object inside object. Rating is an object, and see the rating object have two. Rating is an object means it have again properties. We have like rate. Rate is number, and we have count. Count is also number. That means now two extra properties are there. One is cities, another one rating. Now how to mention about that? Let's see. We will mention those details also. How to mention those details? After the price, I am giving, there is no order. That means it's not necessary that in the same declared order you have to mention. So you can mention in any order. It will just check whether it is there or not. Where it is there, your wish. So here I am writing next one, after name, price and quantity, I am writing cities. Cities is what type? String type array. Am I right? Cities is a string type array. So here we have to put a colon, square brace. And here we have to put Delhi, and here I said Hyderabad. For example, there is another one we created. What is it? Rating. Rating is what type? Rating is an object type. We can have another object. Another object. In this, we need to see it is showing error. Why? Because rating contains two properties. What are those? Rate and count. That means you have to mention rate. Rate is 4.3. And count. Count is suppose 4,500. Something like this. Or something like 600. Now we need to access these details. How to access cities and print? You know that. I will put /n. Here we say cities. How to access array? This dot cities dot, I will use toString. ToString will separate with commas. And I will use /n. Next line, I want to print rating. How do we print the rating? We have to access this dot. What is the property? Rating. Rating is again an object. How to access the members of object? Dot. We have to use rate. And how many people rated it? Again, this dot rating dot what? Count. Like this we are displaying. Now your object is very complicated. This is how real-time data is present. I will show you. You can see that initially. Let's run this and see. I will compile this now. This time there is very complex data. So we have array, we have object. You can see everything working fine. We have name, we have price, quantity, total, cities, and rating. So objects will be in this format. I will show you. See, suppose you can see, I will show you some real-time data. This is actually NASA website. This is official NASA people website. Actually, this I will show you later in Angular. We will do that. This NASA website is nothing but it is an special API site. API site means, for example, you are designing a website, and you are designing a website for a school or a college. And for a school, when you are developing website, in that, for science students, you want to show some page related to space. Then in that page, you want to display some photos of space, Earth, Mars, all these photos you want to put, photos, videos. Then how you will get those photos and videos? You will Google. But when you Google, you will get lot of photos which are fake, not original. Why? Because who went to Mars to take you photos and send you? Right? But NASA is there on Mars. Their rovers are there on Mars. Now what NASA people do is, to educate the people outside, they provide free data. That means NASA says that we have our data public. If your developers have interest, they can use this data and present. That means, you see, this is the API website created by NASA for developers. What developers can do is, you can see here, you can browse APIs. When I browse API, it will show you several APIs like astronomy picture of day, near earth object, and some weather, space weather database, and some earth related database, some Mars related database. You can see Mars rover photos. Now when I click on that Mars rover photos, you can see they give a link to me. This is a link. I will click on that link and you can see their data will come, and see the data how it is present. This is official data provided by NASA. And in which format it is there? In which format the data is present? What this curly brace indicates? Object. What is this photos? Photos is a property. Property, na? Object have properties, right? Object have properties. What is the object property? Photos. Photos is what type? Photos is what type? Its data type. See, it's colon. Colon means it's data, na? What is its data type? It is an array type. In array, again object. In object, this is property. Property, it is what type? Number. And you can see there is camera. There is camera, and you can see camera is again what type? Object. That means you are a successful web developer only when you can understand this data. Understood? That means a web developer's responsibility is to understand this data and present it. If you cannot understand and you cannot present, think that you can't be a web developer. Java, .NET, PHP, Python, any developer, they can't understand JSON, they are not fit for project. Because the ultimate concept of presenting and interacting with data in the modern generation will be in the format of JSON. Earlier, we used to use a lot of XML. Actually, a few years back, this data used to come in XML form. But now we are not using XML. We are using JSON. And observe carefully, you see, suppose they have image source. I will copy that path here. I will copy that path and let's paste this in a new tab. You can see they have that photo. This is the photo. That means they are just providing data. What is your responsibility? Collect the data and present it. Now what I have done here, I have done the presentation in this way. Am I right? But you have to do this presentation in a visual way. Photo right side, left side its information. All this comes in a JSON form, right? So it's very important to understand the data and its responsibilities. And data can be in any format, in any type. That means if anybody asks what kind of data we can store in an object, you can store any kind of data, either primitive type or non-primitive type. Not only just primitive, not primitive, you can store even a function. But as already I told you, if there is a function, it is not called as JSON. It is called as JavaScript object, not JavaScript object notation. Understood? So here, how to define the functions? Let's see the syntax here. We have an object, and the object have its properties. Suppose name is a string type, and here some total is an function type. Then you have to define any. That is how we need to configure. You can have an array type or object type, anything. So you can configure any type of data in object. Any type of data in object. Let me give you two examples. One is array. Array means what? We have to say, suppose TV. In that we have name. Name is what type? String. Price is what type? Number. And here we are having cities. Cities is a string type array. Like this, we create an object. Understood? Now another syntax I will give you here. We can have an object in object. That means we call embedded object. How to define object in object? We have a TV. In that name is a string type, and price is a number type. And we have rating. Rating is again object type with rate as number and count as also number. Like this we can define. This is actually object in object. This is called embedded object. This is embedded object. You can have any kind of data. So this is embedded object type. So what is the type of name? Name is string. The type of price is number, and the type of rating is object. That object have two properties. One is rate and count. Yeah. So this is important. You need to understand about the array and object. So I will give you this example. Let's keep this example. You can note it down from your classroom. I will copy this example. This is the example for that type. In this, I defined all types. So number, string, boolean, anything you want, array, object, embedded objects also present in this example. Okay. I hope everyone is clear, right? So understood what is an array and object. And very, very important, actually, one small point I will tell you. Object properties are string type. Object properties are string type, and value can be any type. That is the reason you may be little bit confused when you saw that NASA data, because generally what we do is when we create here LET TV, in that we have to mention property. I written name directly, but actually properties are what type? String type. Like this we write. Understood? But it is not necessary to write like that, because by default they are string. By default they are string. That is the reason you may be little bit confused when you saw that NASA data. Why? Because the properties are always string only. They are written like string. In that, value can be any type. Value can be string or number or boolean or null, undefined or array or object. So property names are defined as string. Generally when we maintain separate data, then usually this is how we write, right? So that's the reason you may be confused a little bit, but observe here, I will show you. Now you understood? So this property is what? Property type is string, but the property value type is array. It is array. So we have two important things to understand: array and object. Now in real time, actually the data will be like this. We have array of objects. This is very, very important. You learned arrays, you learned objects. We will have array of objects. That is very important. Array of objects is nothing but, suppose I will tell you here. So suppose we are taking an example of some database. We are having some data. I will keep here. We are having data in some Oracle or MySQL or SQL Server, something. Now usually data is maintained here. In a database software, we maintain the data. For example, think that here we are having data like this. So we are having data like this. In that Oracle, we have some table. So that is TBL, some students. That is the table. In that we have some details like name, and we have like age. Some name and age. So like this we have another name and another age, like this. Like this, so many people's data is present. Now the question is, how this data is sent to you, client side? So the data is sent in two formats actually. One is JSON, another one is XML. That is what your technologies will teach you. If you are learning Java, .NET like technologies, there you will learn a concept called web service, web services, and you will learn about APIs. So your server side technologies will teach you web services and APIs. Those will pull the data from database and return the data in the format of XML or JSON. Now, when this data comes, if it is JSON, the JSON data will be like this now. How many students are there? 2 students are there. That means now multiple students are there. That means it is an array. Understood? In this array, for every student details is an object. And what is the first one? Name. And name is like John. And age is like 23, like this. This is first object. Another object is name is like David, and age is like 45. That is how it is going to handle. Understood? So this is called array of objects. This is array of objects. That is how data comes. Now, where is John details? John details is present at index number. It is present at index number 0. And David details are present at index number 1. So this is the collection. This is the collection of students. It is the collection of students. Students collection contains this. Now, how to maintain this data? You understood? Multiple means it is an array. And every individual details will be in the form of an object. Now see how to maintain this data. Let's create a simple logic for that. LET students. Now what you are expecting? Array of objects. You are expecting array of objects. Then how you will write the data type? It is not string array or it is not Boolean array. If it is string array, what we do? String square brace. It is an array of objects. Array of objects. Then I am writing like this. Array of object. Array of object. In that, what is the object type we are expecting? Name. Name is what? String. See, people write like this. Name. Name is what type? String. Understood? So now another property, age. Age is what type? Number type. Number type. Now how to store data into it? Can I store an object into it? Not possible because its data type is array. That means we have to create array. In that array, every person is an object. Every person contains name. And you can see here, we can put name like this. And name is like some John, that is string. Another one is age. Age is like some 23. There is first person details. And this is second person details. So name and colon, this is David. And another one is age. Age is what? Some 45. Like this, we maintain the data. But now you can see it is having an error. It is having an error. You can see here, it is showing some error. It says that it is only one object expecting. It is not assignable with multiple. That means only one object you can store. It is not expecting multiple. Now tell me how to deal multiple then. This is array. Okay. This is array of what? Object. How many? Only one. Only one. How you will tell that this object can be many? How you will tell that object can be many? Problem understood? Right? Now how you will tell that this object can be many? That means another object, another value I stored, it's not working. This is array of object. Now here, suppose I am adding one more array like this. It's not there. Right? That means now how do you mention array of objects? For example, I mentioned like this. I mentioned like this. That means it is an array. So array of what type? Object type. Object type. I am mentioning like this now. In this, I am defining the type. Array of object. Array of object. That is what is the first one? Name. Name is what type? String. Another is what? Age. Age is what type? Number. So number. That's also not allowed. Then how do we manage this? Tell me how we can manage this. How do we write the type? You are expecting more than one. More than one means what? Array. We have an array only type now. In array, what we mention? Object. And if I give one object, it will take as one object only. That means we are having some name. So that is a string type. Another one, price. This is what type? Number type. That is, so not price. What is it? Age. Age is number type. And it says that, see here, it is saying that array of object means not assignable. See, it is saying that target allows only one. Source has two elements. Anyone can think an answer for that? Here, the problem is about mentioning the array, right? That means, for example, here, this is array only. What type array? Object type array. Object type array. Array of objects. So I remove that from here. If I mention like this, now it is okay. Understood? That means it's an object type array. The concept is array of objects only. Understood? That means what values you are trying to store inside? Objects. Then, but the type name is what? Type name. Type name is object type array. Understood? Value type is array of objects. This is the way that you need to think. That means data type is not array of objects. Data type is object type array. Object type array. And what is the value type? Array of objects. Array of objects. That means here you need to define in this way. So data type. Data type. It is what type? Object type array. Object type array. Data type object type array means you have to write like this. You have to write so like this. Object type array. Understood? What is the value type? Value type is what? Array of objects. Array of objects is the value type. That means in this what we do in square brace, we write objects. Understood? You can add any number of objects like this. That is the way that you have to represent. That means how you call is important, right? If you miss the term, how you pronounce it, then you will be confused. That means data type is always not array of objects. Data type is always object of array. Object type array. And value type is array of objects. That is how we need to configure, right? Remember, this is a very latest technique of TypeScript. In TypeScript also, old TypeScript people don't write like this. That means in several websites, when you see data types of TypeScript with Angular and all, you will see people using not like this. They have to deal with objects and all. You will see people using any type array. Any type array. That means it can handle multiple objects also. This you will see very regularly. Out of 100 websites you verify for Angular, you will see 95% people are showing you like this, which is an old technique of TypeScript. But now we have a better technique of mentioning the types. So we are learning latest TypeScript, and in latest TypeScript is 4x version, 4.2, 4.1 like that. So Angular is also using this latest TypeScript now. Angular we are learning now 15, and Angular 15 is trying to use the latest of TypeScript. So how TypeScript is used in old version is different and now little different. That is the reason these new techniques you need to understand. This is how we have to write. Now how to read these values, I hope you people know. We can write loops or iterators. What you can do, we will write a for where student of, what is the collection name? Student of students. We are reading every student. We want to print every student name. Console.log. We will print every student name. We can access like this. Student dot, what is that name? And we will access student dot age. We are printing every student detail. So this is JSON type, and you see now we are accessing every student detail. Just compile and run this, and you can see this is how it is going to print. That is how it is going to access and print the details, right? This is little bit important to understand, and this is something new here, how we can configure array of objects and object type array, right? So whenever you have to deal with multiple records, then this is the technique of representation. In many websites earlier also I told you, just LET students, they simply mention any type array. In that they can store array of what? Objects. Any type array, they can store any type of object. But here restriction is not good, because they can have any type. That means in a number they can store some string, in a string they can store some number. That is not good. It is structureless actually. And generally in other companies, what we do is we use contracts. Later I will tell you about contracts. In OOP concepts we will see that, right? Initially this is array and objects. Is it clear everyone? How do we work with arrays and how do we work with objects, and how do we work with array of objects? All right, this is important. Next, another, in the data types, in TypeScript we have to use a map type. There is a map type also. In types, map type is same JavaScript type only. Actually map, it is same like object with the key and value. But what is the specialty here is, it is same like object with key and value. But what is the specialty here is, so key can be any type. Key can be any type. In object, key can be only what type? String. So object keys, in object keys are only which type? String type. But in map, keys are any type. You can have any type. And in JavaScript you will learn, I will not show you anything here much, because this is a general JavaScript concept. Actually map is faster than object. So it have implicit methods. Map have implicit methods. It is faster than object, but it is structureless, because it can have one string key, another number key. Different types of keys can be there. Map can have different types of keys. So it has so many methods, like map have set method, map have get method, map have has method. We have a clear method, delete method. So we have values and keys. Keys and entries. All these are the methods of map. These are all the methods of a map. Right. So this is actually map type. And map types you will learn usually in your JavaScript. There is no change here. Same you have to use here also. Only the data type I will show here, how generally maps are configured. I will show you one example here. Because maps are structureless and they are faster. Suppose you see here in a object, suppose I am mentioning here I am mentioning key number 1, and this is what type. Suppose I mentioned some string type. This is actually invalid. This is invalid. Why? Because a number is not allowed as a key. A number is not allowed as a key. Understood? Name, age, one, all are what? Keys. Keys must be what type? String. You see, you enter 1, it is treated as string on. Means everything is a string. That means actually it is like this. It is like this one. Right? You cannot have other type of keys here. That is the reason we in JavaScript we use like this. Suppose some data and we have to use new map. We need to use new map. And map is a collection of keys and values. And you see here, you see it is a collection of keys and values. That means key can be any type. And the value is also what type? Any type. But we don't write like this, just by showing you here. Actually, how we do that? By using data.set. In that you can see it says key by default any type. And value also any type. That means now what we do here, we can put 1, in that we can put some HTML. Is a markup language like this. Now I am adding another data set. Here I say CSS, and in this what we are doing, say it is, so it is used to define styles. That means here you can see one is number type key, another one is string type. This is not possible in object. In object, all keys are what type? String. But here it can be one string type, one number type. You can maintain different types. Now the question here, what is the data type? You can see data type is defined by default as map. So how to write map types? We have to put a colon and we need to configure as what? Map. And inside the map, we have to define key. Key is a string type, and we have to define value. Value is a number type. You can define like this. Now, later you will learn actually this arrow mark indicates this is a generic type. What are generics in OOP concepts we will learn. That is the reason I am not much discussing about this, because it is a generic type. After learning generics only you will understand. But just a point I will tell you. Actually, what is the concept here? Map can be having key. Key what type? Any type. And value is what type? It is also any type. You can store any kind of data now. So here for a map, you have to mention the types in this angle bracket, key and value. Now, what is the specialty is if you want, you can change. If you want all keys as string, then what you can do, you can change this to what type? String. then automatically it will not allow number type keys. It will not allow number type keys. It's showing an error now. It says number type key is not available. Value can be any type. Value currently I'm giving string. Value can be any type. If you want to restrict value also, you can write value also as string. Value also string. That means now value cannot be number or boolean or anything. So we can restrict the type. We can restrict the type by using this, right? So if you want to configure any type of value, use data type as any. So for maps, you need to configure syntax like this. That means you need to define LET, some data, what type, map type. In that, we have to mention key. Key is any and value also any. Is equal to new map. That is how we declare. And into a map, in order to store data, we have to use set method, set. It can have a number or it can have a string like this. So we can have set, it can have a string. So it can have a string, it can have some number, anything you can store inside. Key and values can be any type. How to access, how to manipulate, how to work with maps, that you will see in general JavaScript. So here only one point is how to declare the data type. If anybody asks what are the differences between object and map, few difference already you know. Object contains key and value. Map also contains key and value. And in object, keys must be all string type. But in map, keys can be any type. Object requires explicit methods. Explicit methods means to read the properties, to read the values, you need to write external for loops. But here, internal methods are there. Suppose if I use data dot keys, it will return all keys. If I use data dot values, it will return all values. Without using external loops and iterators, internal methods will do. That is the reason these are faster, right? But in many Angular interviews, we have seen this question: what is difference between object and map? In many JavaScript and Angular interviews, especially, we have seen this. So object and map, a simple difference table I will give you here. So object is key and value. Map is also key and value. Key, so here, so key is a string and a key can be any type. Requires explicit iterators and loops. It have implicit iterators. It have implicit iterators. So it is slow and it is fast. It is slow, it is fast. Then you may say that map is better, but map is not better because object is structured and map is schemaless. Schemaless means structureless. Why it is structureless? How it can be structured if different types of keys are there? Map is structured. That means all keys are what type? String. But if it is structureless, then it is difficult to handle. That is the reason real-time data is not designed using maps. Real-time data always done by using what? Object. Maps are used in different occasion where data doesn't need a structure. If you are dealing with any structureless data and working with that, then maps are good. But if you are dealing with structured data, then it is very important to go with only objects. Even you saw that NASA data, it is in object, not in a map. All are string type only, if you have observed. All properties of NASA data is given in the format of string. It is an object type, right? This is how we can manage arrays and objects and maps. And one more important, that is nothing but date type. You learned date type in JavaScript, huh? Same. So for date type here, TypeScript date type is used to configure and handle dates, date and time values. Date type is used to configure and handle date types, date and time values. How to store a date and time in a variable, and how we can access. Same JavaScript concept, no change. Only the point, the data type we have to mention as date, right? Working with date is very important regularly. For example, you see here, I will show you, suppose I am writing LET, I am writing here LET manufactured, MFD. Manufactured is a date. Then we have to mention data type as date. And how to allocate memory for date? By using new date constructor. By using date constructor, we allocate the memory for date. And inside this constructor, by default, current date will be loaded. Current date and time will be loaded. If you want any specific date and time, we have to mention here in a string form in year, month, day format, mandatory. Year, month, day, 2023. So month is 01, day is suppose 02 something. That means some previous manufactured date. If you don't mention the date, by default current date will be taken, right? And if you want to mention time, space, time must be in hours, minutes, seconds and milliseconds. Hours we defined as suppose 10, minutes is 20, seconds is 32 and milliseconds dot milliseconds up to 99 you can give. Hours 0 to 23, minutes 0 to 59, seconds 0 to 59 and milliseconds 0 to 99. This is how we store dates in JavaScript. TypeScript also same, only extra is data type is mentioned as date. Generally in JavaScript, we don't mention this, directly we allocate the date. And how to read the date and present it? To read the date and present it, so all JavaScript date functions are same in TypeScript. All JavaScript date functions are same in TypeScript. That means here we are using LET manufactured is a date type is equal to new date, here year, so month, day, year, month, day. And after that hours, minutes, seconds, dot milliseconds. Seconds. That is how we store the dates. And all the date methods are same. What are the date methods? Get hours, we have get minutes, we have get seconds. So get seconds, you have get milliseconds, and we have get date, get day, get date, get date. These are all methods. Get month, get full year. These are all date related functions. Similarly, we have set also. Set hours. So we have like set date, just few I am giving. set date, etc. Set hour, set minutes, set seconds. All these are date functions used to access and display the date. These are all JavaScript methods actually. Same methods are used here also. So same the JavaScript methods are defined here also to deal with the date values. So we have methods like to local date string. So we have like to local time string. These are all date and time functions. So storing the date value, accessing and using the date value is an important point. And for that, JavaScript date constructor is used similarly here also, but only extra data type you have to mention by using date, right? Now, this is a date type. That means how I can access this here, console.log, and I say manufactured is equal to mfd.to local date string. Like this, we are accessing to local date string. Then it can present the date and display. That means it will access the date and display like this. This is date. I just use it to local date string. You can use local time string. You can display all. But this is the way how you define and manage the dates, right? That is how we configure the date. So these are all the data types of JavaScript. Is it clear? We have primitive types and non-primitive. In primitive types, what you have learned? One more type is their symbol. I will tell you. So we have number type, string type, boolean, null, undefined, and symbol. Symbol we will see later. Non-primitive types, array, object, map, and date. All these are types. Now, once we know this, now we can go into the concept of object-oriented programming that we'll see in tomorrow's session. Okay, so tomorrow onwards, now very, very important topics, because these are regularly used in Angular now, and you need to be very perfect. Object-oriented, that we will start in tomorrow's session. Okay.